Could it be? Could it be? It is out of here!
And it's a no-hitter! Unbelievable! Ruiz and Halladay embrace!
Champions!
It is bedlam at the bank as Bryce Harper has put the Phillies on top!
We're talking about the Lions here.
Hello and welcome back to the Specific Jawns podcast, your elite source of all things Philadelphia Phillies. It's been 2 weeks. We had a little hiatus. Pat will explain why. That's okay. It's been a hell of a 2 weeks if you're a Phillies fan. What a 180 we have done over the course of this still relatively new 2026 season. It's just me and my boy Pat Barker today. No other members of our usual cast lineup. But just like the Phillies lineup, Pat, as long as the two big-name, high-paid starters are producing, we can be contenders. So, Pat, welcome back. Great to see you. How you been doing, bud?
Man, I'm good. I off air will have to continue that analogy and figure out who the Alec Bohm of our friend group is. But if we are Harper and Schwarber in any order, I will certainly take that. I'm good. I apologize to everybody for missing last week. I had just wrapped up work on the roast of Kevin Hart on Netflix, and
Congrats.
Thank you. It was the numbers just came out today for the first week. Tremendous success. Pacing just a little bit behind Brady from a couple years ago, but certainly. That was at the time the most watched event in Netflix history. So to be just a little bit behind that is really good. First week, I think it was 1.3 billion minutes watched.
Wow.
Which is an absurd amount of time. So very happy with that. The critical acclaim that we got on Brady, the universal love, maybe not there for this one. People have a lot of things to say, both positive and negative, and picking out specific jokes. It's really weird to have like a 3-hour event with hundreds, if not over 1,000 total jokes, get boiled down to like one or two that people really don't like. But with social media, that is the culture. I'll say this: I think everybody who sat down and watched the 3 hours generally liked it. I think the people who are scrolling and they didn't sign up for problematic material, which I get totally. I mean, you're scrolling Instagram and a joke pops up about something that's like triggering to you. I get why people are upset about whatever. So, I guess it's all good for business, right? All publicity is good publicity, but yeah.
No viewing minutes are bad viewing minutes. Yeah, you got to take all that.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool to see, the Philly connection on that whole thing, whether it was on camera or off. You've got to prop up your boys, whether you know them or not. I think Philly is the funniest city in the world. I'll always hold that to be true.
Dude, I agree. And this is inside baseball that like very few people will get. But in addition to, of course, Kevin Hart being from Philadelphia and Shane Gillis, who hosted the whole thing, is from Philadelphia. Big J. Okerson had an amazing set from Philadelphia. Naeem Lynn, one of Kevin's boys from back in the day in Philadelphia. The Roots were the house band. Meek Mill closed out the show. There was so much Philly, but even like off state, like I was in catering the day before and I ran into a comic named Lawrence Killebrew that I did shows with.
I remember him from the old open mic days.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. And he's friends with Spank Horton, who was one of the the remote writers who was friends with Kevin. And then I caught up with Shane. We spent about 10 to 15 minutes talking the day of the roast, and we were just talking about old Philly comedians. There were, Ed McGonigal and John Kensel and legendary Wid and Andy Nolan, and we're just, how it is when you catch up with old friends and you're just going through that Rolodex of like old names. You don't even have to add context to it. You're just like, remember that guy? Oh my God. And that's so it was a lot of fun. It was a very heavily Philadelphia based production, and I think I was the only Philly area writer in the room. So it was nice to be able to offer kind of that perspective too.
That's awesome. Well, while you were roasting, the Philadelphia Phillies, I'm not sure you're aware, are 16-4 in the Don Mattingly era. That's pretty good, Pat. I'm not sure you were expecting that when we last truly spoke in depth about this team. So I'm not sure how much you've been able to watch in the last 2 to 3 weeks, but I want to get your first impression of what's going on here.
Well, to answer the first part, how much have I been able to watch? The last week, I've kind of been able to watch a lot more. The 2 weeks prior, just because of work and everything like that, I couldn't. I had a few free hours every week, and I had a choice to make. Do I watch Phillies baseball in May, or do I try to go all in on the Sixers and Flyers? And boy, did I pick the wrong path there.
Wrong to jump in on that. Yeah, you missed it by a week.
Oof. What a brutal. I understand the first round wins over the Penguins and the Celtics were great, but man,
Huge.
the second rounds were tough to watch. But the last week I've definitely caught up a lot more. It's weird. I wasn't expecting obviously this kind of turnaround. The team looked lethargic and sluggish through the first 28 games. I thought that they would be better for sure. I don't remember exactly what I said on the episode, but I would imagine it's something to the effect of they're better than this. They're going to be better than this. And while I still have doubts about the lineup, I think everybody viewed it as kind of an outlier that the defense to a degree, and especially the pitching, had been so terrible. I mean, I think we were all in agreement that it was not going to continue with Luzardo posting an ERA around 7 and Sanchez leading the league in hits allowed. And there were a lot of things, and Wheeler was not back at that point. And I think there were a lot of reasons, and by the way, not the least of which is the schedule. Rob Thompson ran into the Atlanta and Chicago Cubs buzzsaws when they were on fire. So it was kind of perfect timing for the change. Mattingly was able to come in, take over a team that was due for some positive regression as they faced a lot of bad baseball teams, to be frank. Now, that being said, taking nothing away from them, 16-4 is 16-4. That's an incredible run. They've been playing, obviously, a lot better. The pitching has gotten better. The hitting, I still have questions about, but the clutch kind of gene, the vibe, like when Thompson took over for Girardi, the whole vibe changed. If it's a close game in the 8th inning, you feel good about it. And really, and this is just kind of my last overall thought, and then we can get into specifics, but they could not have planned this better. There is no other blueprint in which the team would be sitting at, I believe they're 25-23, and the
Correct.
fans are excited and happy and, trending in the right direction. If Rob Thompson had stayed on and they had gotten back to 25-23, I think everybody would be like, well, they're still pretty average. They're not what they should be better than this. They're hot right now, but whatever. If Mattingly had started the year, if they had just hired him from the jump and he went 9-19 to start, I don't think. But it was the perfect thing of like this team felt stale, they felt old, they felt boring, and without changing a single player, they have managed to trick the fan base into thinking that this is somehow a fresh new team. And look, I'm here for it. As long as the honeymoon period, as long as they want to play 800 ball, I will. I'll pretend along with them. I'll pretend it's fresh and new as well.
I hear you on all that. I think I come at it from a little different perspective. I think I value the management structure a little more than you do. I give a little more credence to that as to how it plays out on the field. I don't think it would have been possible to end up at 25-23 at this point with Rob Thompson. I just don't think that was a possibility because I do believe that the coaching change. That Mattingly has made a difference and that he is the primary reason why this team has gotten to 16-4 in his tenure. The way I've seen, and I really want to focus on the last 4 games if we do get into more details, the complexion of those games and what I saw, in my mind is the optimal level of this Phillies team, the way that they won games, the way that they played, the way that the games were managed. But overall, I just want to say in what I've seen in this 16-4 run, is this them performing within the silos that Dave Dombrowski or whoever you want to credit for being the architect of this team was supposed to perform. You've got your two big money stars in the middle of the lineup producing, one dotting in OPS, hitting bombs, driving in runs, working counts, setting the tone for everybody around them, and forcing the opposition to plan their entire game around how you're going to pitch to them, and still failing in a lot of these games. You've got a starting pitching core that is elite. This is, I've said this since we started doing this podcast in December. This is a pitching team. Don't ever kid yourselves and think that we're anything else. We got the big stars on the offensive side of the ball for years now. But we will only go as far as the starting pitching allows us. That's been true for a couple years now, and more so this year than ever. We've got, the rotation that we want at this point. We can't knock Rob Thompson for games in which Taijuan Walker started. I think we ought to handicap him at least for that. But we've seen, Zack Wheeler turn back into Zack Wheeler right before our eyes. Like couldn't have gone on a better timeline than we could have hoped for at the beginning of the season. What we were told about his injury recovery prospects, I mean, I really didn't think we'd see him in form until the All-Star break if we were lucky. Andrew Painter is a rookie with, a lot of growing to do, but he's showing some of that. The team's showing patience. They're giving him run support. There's explanations for why he, gets rocked, here and there. And they talk directly about, mechanic issues and mentality issues. And I just see him as a rookie that they are developing. It doesn't feel like a failed project by any means. And then you see, the bullpen that was bolstered compared to last season. I think the bullpen was at its best, at least the way it was constructed 2 seasons ago. But they're pretty close to it this year. Maybe a little bit more because we didn't have Duran. But he's back from injury. They're holding on to leads when they need to. And then you've got the margins guys. And you can never expect it from anyone in particular, but you know what you have surrounding, the Schwarber, Harper, Turner contingent. You've got role players that if positioned correctly and ordered correctly in the lineup and, put in the right spots, they're going to contribute. And you're going to have, hopefully you've conveyed a plate approach to them with each at bat, knowing how to, approach it where you are in the order and in that situation. I never saw that in Thompson's tenure since 22. That was always my opinion of this team. Whether I'm looking for it and wanting to, create my own bias, but I'm seeing it in this run since Mattingly has come around. Not every game, not every at bat, but certainly I can see at a high level there's a strategy here, and there's a grit to the team again as a result. Everyone feels like they're bought in. Everyone feels like they're backing each other up, and you've seen these come from behind victories that didn't feel possible at any point, especially the beginning of this year and a lot of last year too. I know we won 90 some games last year, but there weren't a ton of come from behind victories. There weren't a ton of walk-offs. There really weren't, for a team that won that many games, you didn't see that very often. And just everything, it's running the way it's supposed to. It's not the best team in the league on paper, but they're operating the way that they're expected to, and anything can happen in the baseball postseason. Yep. And that's all we're looking for. That's the kind of hope that you hang on to as a fan. So yeah, you're right. We're feeling full buy-in in the stadium again at 25-23. That's an impressive feat considering we were 9-19 in late April.
Yeah, dude, no doubt. And I just to touch on that real quick, like I don't mean to take anything away from anybody. I agree with you. I don't think Rob could have, if he stuck around, could have gone 16-4. there's definitely a different feel around it. And sometimes we've all worked jobs where you have a boss and maybe you like the boss and that doesn't matter. You get a new boss and there is just a new energy. It's not necessarily an indictment of the old boss. It's not, it's nothing. It's just, it feels new. So I'm not taking anything away from Don Mattingly. I think he has done a tremendous job. I guess what I'm trying to say is they're 16-4, and in 10 of those 20 games, they allowed 2 or fewer runs. So before we get into all the, the mojo changed and all this kind of stuff, not saying that's not true, but I'm saying, as you said, this is a pitching team. It's always been a pitching team. They go where the starting rotation goes. And at the beginning of the season, where the starting rotation was going was to the injured list or back to the dugout with 1 out in the 5th inning. Now where the starting rotation is going is 7 shutout, 8 shutout. In the case of Cristopher Sanchez the other day, a complete game shutout. As Don Mattingly himself said, it's easy to manage when the players are playing really well. So not taking anything away from anybody. Love the fact that this is happening. Would much rather have this, obviously. And you're right also about the feel of, like, the come from behind. They lost that somewhere around the halfway point of 2024. They started off that year gangbusters, and then all of a sudden, it was something after that London series when they came back.
Got real tight.
They played 500 ball. They lost to the Mets in the first round. Last year, it felt like they were good, but there was no real joy there. There was no real spark. The joy is there. The spark is there. And look, they've created a world where if, Alec Bohm or Bryson Stott or one of these guys that I have deservedly shit on in this podcast for a lack of, growth over the course of their young careers, when those guys come up with the game on the line, I no longer feel panic. I no longer feel dread. I feel like it is possible that they are going to deliver. So obviously, completely different feel than before, and not taking anything away from Don Mattingly. You love to see it.
Absolutely. I don't even know which part of this roster we want to go towards. I feel like I really want to talk about them in segments. I want to talk about the starting pitching. I want to talk about the daycare, who are all age 28 or older at this point. We've just been waiting for them to grow up and turn into true productive veteran players, and we are seeing signs of it. I think I actually do want to start with the daycare because, as I said, it's the guys on the margins who are going to make or break you ultimately in the postseason. You can never predict who or when, as long as your big stars and your rotation are performing as you expect them to. Let's start with Brandon Marsh. So he's a guy we do have another year of control. He's 28 years old. He's making $5.2 million this year. And finally outperforming even that contract. I look back at, when we traded for him, I think a lot of people really view that as a forever loss. I don't think that was fair even before this season began. They traded him straight up for Logan O'Hoppe in the middle of 2022. O'Hoppe's he's got tremendous upside still as a potentially elite catcher in this league, but in Anaheim, he's been injured a significant amount. I think he's mostly hit in the low 200s. And Marsh has been, a productive player overall. But I think we've expected him to be a starter, a full-time player by this point. And he hadn't been really until this year. And I think he's an all-star if we were to stop right now. I think that's frankly a no-brainer. He's hitting, what do we have him at? 327 as of the beginning of recording this episode. 5th in baseball. He's playing pretty much every day. His splits against left-handers, which were supposed to be his Achilles heel, are looking like an everyday productive batter. And if you watch his approach to the plate, he is almost looking like a peak Alec Bohm from the left side. Not a ton of power, but goes with the baseball, hits opposite field, drives in runs, given the situation that he's in. And I'm amazed by it. I never thought of him as a particularly smart hitter. I thought he had a lot of natural talent, but I'm seeing an approach that is just looking like he's finally, yeah, like a veteran, a productive veteran.
Yeah.
Um, in the
Yeah,
field,
he can he can hit. He can
he
hit.
really can.
And you're right. It's the approach. It's the change in kind of methodology that's really changed this year. And a couple of the things that I'll say from the beginning. I feel like I texted you guys a couple years ago when I said Brandon Marsh has more opposite field pop than anybody I've ever seen at that size.
Hmm.
I frankly I don't remember since the days of like Ryan Howard, the Phillies having a lefty who, well, I mean, excluding Harper, of course, and Schwarber hits pop-ups to left field that go 380 sometimes and are home runs. But I'm talking about like guys who are like mid-level kind of like hitters who can go opposite field like that with authority. He's always had the physical tools. In Anaheim, he was a center fielder. He's not cut out to be a center fielder. He's much better on the corners, but I think he's a totally serviceable left fielder who you could put in center in a pinch. But more importantly, his approach has just gotten a lot better. Way more. You know, I saw an interesting stat the other day, and I hesitate to regurgitate anything on a podcast that I saw on like a meme without fact checking it. But I don't see why they would lie about this. It's so absurd. They had the list of the top 5 all-time hitters in the history of Major League Baseball on BABIP, which is batting average on balls in play. And it was 4 Hall of Famers and Brandon Marsh. It was like
Wow.
Babe Ruth, Tris Speaker, Brandon Marsh, Ted Williams, and somebody. So what that tells me is he hits the ball hard. His problem is he strikes out so much. He doesn't have enough power to be a 160, 170 strikeout guy. And if he cuts that down, the rate at which he finds grass when he puts the ball in play, you know, as evidenced by that stat, that tells me that there's a lot of upside still to find for this guy. And boy, has he started to find it. The 327 average is incredible. And I remember asking the group chat a month ago, why can't he bat cleanup? And, you know, our good buddy who I wish was doing this podcast, he refuses to, but his thing was like, well, because he stinks. Why are we going to hit somebody cleanup who stinks? And this was in the period of extreme negativity, and my counter-argument was they all stink. He stinks by far the least. I would say in the 4 weeks since then, he has moved from he stinks the least to he is a legitimate all-star. It's crazy to see.
Yeah, agreed. And we talked about that, I think, on the last episode, too, about him being in the cleanup spot over the other options. And I'm totally amenable to that. We've seen it a few times in Mattingly's lineups. I still think he slots as a 2-hole hitter, given the top 4, given the rest of the top 4 of Turner, Schwarber, and Harper. But I'm not going to mess with that too much at the current moment. I think anyone would be crazy to. Yeah, Marsh, if he starts to put up some real power numbers, which we haven't quite seen at this juncture, it's more average. But driving in runs and hitting situationally, I'll take that any day, especially in today's game.
Then, you know, by the way, one final thought on that, just real quick. Who is saying that Marsh for O'Hoppe is a forever loss? Because I think regardless of what's going on right now with Brandon Marsh, the 2022 Phillies was a top 3 favorite season of mine as I'm 43 years old. And behind the 08 team and the 93 team, that 2022 team is right there, and Brandon Marsh was a big part of that. To me, you're playing with house money with him at this point. And Logan O'Hoppe, I mean, maybe if he turns into Pudge Rodriguez, we'll revisit this conversation. But so far, yeah, like you say, he's injured too much for me to feel like it's a forever loss. So I don't agree with that premise.
Agree with you 10,000%. It is still said. You'll see it, you know, in blog comments. You'll hear it mentioned once in a while for those who want to sort of revisit and dump on everything Dombrowski has done midseason, which, you know, there are patterns that you can point out there. If you want, I would actually push back on most of them, even going down to Austin Hayes, but we'll resolve that another day. But yeah, no, but they made Dombrowski has done this a couple of times in his tenure with us. He's made multiple deals with the same team mid-season. Part of what makes him a valuable GM is or president of baseball operations, whatever you want to call him, is his rapport around the league, his reputation, a guy to do business with. You don't really think about that as a fan, and especially in the heat of the moment. But much like he did with the Twins last year, making a couple of deals that were good. They got Duran. I mean, that alone I think is a plus. That year he made a couple deals with the Angels towards the deadline. One was Ohapi for Marsh, and the other was Mickey Moniak for Thor. And I think there was another player. But I have to look. Moniak is also one-dotting in OPS this year out of nowhere. I mean,
we are not going to relitigate Mickey Moniak and retroactively pretend that we knew and Dombo's an idiot. No.
That's I'm with you on that. We're not going to do that at all. And Thor was an important piece to solidify our playoff run in 22. So we'll visit that topic another day, maybe with an opposition voice in play. But there are people who think that the Ohapi for Marsh trade was a loss. Even still, you got to remember that JT Realmuto was going to be here for a few years. The guy was blocked. I mean, it's just one of those trades you got to make for both sides. And Marsh is finally, really showing that it might have been the long-term win either way. Moving on in the daycare, I'll go to Bryson Stott now, who, in fact, at the time of our last recording 2 weeks ago, was starting to show some power out of nowhere, having that sort of tight swing. I'm not going to say Utley-esque at all. It's a little more loopy, but where if you come in on him, he will rope the ball. And he'll put it over the fence if he gets a hold of it. He's got 5 dingers now since then. He's got his average up a little bit. RBIs, he's got 23 RBIs, which I think he's probably got 2/3 of those in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But he's and Harper spoke up for him in this period where he wanted to emphasize that he feels he's an everyday player. Mild shot at Topper, maybe, who was sitting him a bit towards the end of his run here for Sosa or whoever. I can't knock Topper for making those type of moves when nobody was producing. But it does feel like it doesn't feel like he's hiding an injury like he did most of 24. It doesn't feel like he's completely lost at the plate like he did in 25. And his defense is still what it is. I'm really happy to see him turn into a good second baseman again. And look, if you're fixated on what kind of production you're getting out of second base, you're probably not a great team anyway. So this is a margin situation, and he's there and he's producing. He's gotten huge hits, especially in the last couple weeks. Yep. The go-ahead home run last night against the Reds, that was kind of out of nowhere and unexpected. They were. I don't even think Mattingly was expecting to pull ahead in that inning, in that situation. He was gearing up with a couple potential pinch hitters behind him. I think he was strategizing to manufacture a run or two, and Stott went in and just cleared the bases. And that's these are just guys regressing to their mean in a positive direction. It's not going to be like this all the time, but if you can get 4 or 5 of your other guys in the lineup doing just average baseball things, this team should be a contender. I think that's the name of it here.
Yeah, I mean, look, 530 OPS in May, or in April, 890 so far in May. He did a complete 180. He turned everything around. And I'll tell you this, I don't expect him to continue with an 890 the whole way, but I think he should be a lot closer to 890 than he should 530. He's a career 700 on the dot guy. He's better than that. He's better than that. Opposite of Brandon Marsh, I feel like his batting average on balls in play must be pretty terrible because I don't feel like he strikes out a lot. He fouls off a ton of pitches. My thing is the quality of contact good enough? And The quality of contact has completely changed from April to May. Now, we're still looking at a situation where he impressed in small doses his rookie year, had a really good sophomore campaign, and has yet to reach that height again. He's got to get there. He was a 750 OPS guy in his second year. I'm going to need him back in that range.
Yeah, and I think that's so. If his average on balls in play increases, great. I think there's been a very fixable problem with him that we saw he's fully capable of in his sophomore season, especially. I mean, we talked about it all the time that year. One of the best two-strike hitters we'd seen.
Oh God, yeah.
And that disappeared really by the end of 23. That's something that can certainly be brought back in a player. And I feel like, maybe a Mattingly getting in his ear. Somebody's got to recognize that hasn't to this point. And this is, I know you and I both have still long-standing beef with Kevin Long for not getting that ingrained in him again. But I've seen a little bit of that, not to the level that he was in 22. But if he can work counts and show the eye that he's definitely capable of having, I mean, those numbers are going to come up. He's going to be a 700 OPS guy easily.
Well, the interesting thing about the eye is we've praised him, and rightfully so, for having one of the best eyes on the team, but it hasn't really gotten him a whole lot. The last couple of years, he was over 50 walks, under 100 strikeouts, which is like, by modern day standards, that's pretty good, especially when you're hitting like eighth. You're hitting down in the lineup. They have every reason to throw you strikes. To have less than a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio is great. This year, he's on pace for about 30 walks. His walk numbers are actually down. His strikeout numbers are around where they've been. I'm fine with that ratio going down if it means he's being more aggressive and hitting the ball harder. And that's definitely what he has.
Yeah.
Better contact. Like, great. We know you can draw a walk. This is what, and it's an apples to oranges a little bit because one of them hit third and one of them's hitting seventh or eighth or ninth, but it's what everybody killed Abreu for. Like, I get that the ball is, a quarter of an inch off the plate. You could hit that ball, hit it. So it's a fine line, right? I don't want him swinging at bad pitches, but I do want him being more aggressive around the strike zone, and I feel like he has been. As far as Bryce Harper's comments, I take everything Bryce has to say about Bryson with a grain of salt. That's his guy. They're both Vegas guys. Bryce pushed hard for the Phillies to draft him in the first. Like, that's his friend. That's maybe his best friend in baseball. So, of course, he's going to have his back. It is insane to sit here retroactively and be like, he's an everyday player. It's like, well, the team was falling apart, and your second baseman had, he was hitting 130, and you got a righty who crushed lefties last year. He hasn't done it this year. Sosa is not hitting lefties this year. But to act like getting him some spot starts against lefties is a bad idea is just stupid. I mean, that's not to say that Bryson Stott isn't an everyday player, but he has to prove it. I don't think he's earned, to this point in his career, the right for a manager to be like, well, I can't touch Bryson Stott. I can't possibly sit him against a lefty. He has to earn it. He's earning it right now. Let's see if it continues.
Yeah, and I obviously am well aware of Bryce Harper's curated personality and pandering and his best friend. But I just think it was part of it. It all sort of fed into just we're together as a team. We got a new shot of energy here. The culture's going to be strong again, and it was a good time for Bryce to say that. And I rarely think that what he says is well timed or proper or interesting ever. But that was a comment I was okay with. And yeah. Mattingly sat Stott the next game, and it was not a thing at all. It was just nice to hear, Stott getting some recognition, and to see him, whether it's in response to that or not, continue to perform is just a really nice thing to see. It's those guys that rounded out the culture and the performance in 22, and it's looking like that again to me for the first time since then. So you gotta just kind of enjoy that ride. And then we get to the third member of the daycare, and I honestly, I've hardly even looked at his stats because there's just his name just makes me angry no matter how well he's doing anymore. That's Alec Bohm. He of the three, he's the one who doesn't have another year of arbitration left. Stott and Marsh are both 28, have one more year remaining of that, so they'll be with us in the 27 season. Bohm is done with that. He is a all-out free agent at the end of the season, making $10.2 million this year. We all know about the lawsuit with his parents, whatever's going on in his head. But he's got a little hit streak going. He has had a few clutch hits in this run. I've seen him smile a lot more, which good for him. I don't want to have to notice that about a player, but he seems bought in like everybody else. Now, whether that's just the gravity that happens and you get sucked into that on a team, great. Or if he's fully bought in and ready to work again too. Again, just another guy on the margins who's kind of almost performing, to baseball level. What are your thoughts on what we might be able to do with him? Do you think he will turn into a trade piece by end of July? Or do you think we'll ride him out and maybe he'll be productive and we'll be okay at both corners of the infield?
Oh, well, listen, I think this is a playoff team, so I don't think you trade him unless there's an upgrade there. I have no interest in selling off any pieces, regardless of how I personally feel about them, and I obviously am not a big Alec Bohm guy. Let me first recognize his turnaround, because it's even more astounding than Stott's. 395 OPS in April, 954 in May. He has been absolutely tremendous. Credit where it's due. Do I buy it? Not really. I would love to be wrong. Let's get that on the record. I would love to be wrong about this kid. I would love for him to prove me and a lot of other people wrong and really, finish out this year strong and go into free agency strong and get a lot of money from a team that is not the Phillies, but have a couple of signature moments that boost his value. And I would love that for him. God bless. And going through the personal stuff that he's going through, I can imagine that was a massive energy drain on him in April, and I don't discount any of that. With Bohm, I'm more going off of 6 years worth of data. My problems with him were never confined to April. I have been frustrated with him for a long time, and I'm ready to move on from the Alec Bohm experiment, especially when people start whispering about, there's a Japanese guy. You know how I feel about my Japanese players. And by the way, I'm right more often than I'm wrong. Murakami is
It's been legit. You're right.
unbelievable. And I wanted either him or Okamoto, and we didn't get him. We stuck with Bohm. So it makes no sense for me to sit here and root against him just to say I told you so. I'd rather him prove me wrong and them have a parade down Broad Street. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that a big part of its problem was psychological. The jury is out for me on Alec Bohm. I want to see. I'm going to be going to some games next week. They're coming out to San Diego. They're coming out to LA. They're going to play some good baseball teams on the road. I want to see how these guys look in person. I'm optimistic about Stott. I'm very optimistic about Marsh. I am skeptical about Bohm. And I just hope he proves me wrong. I'm not willing to go all in yet, but talk to me again in a couple weeks, and I might be flying the Alec Bohm flag high. Where are you at with him?
I mean, right on. I'm hoping all those things. I don't see his psychological makeup changing. I think that's who he is. I think we really wanted to root for him. I more than the friggin' standing O for Turner. What the fan base did with Bohm, when he said, "I hate this fucking place," how receptive they were to his, apology right after. And not just that, it's just the complete 180 to now we love this guy. We got your back, Bohm, for the long haul. That for someone to squander that in their career, not like performance is one thing, your talent level, you can't do too much about that. But to not respond, to become a consummate Philadelphia athlete and work hard and keep your head down and never be a friggin' baby at the plate or anywhere else. I just can't imagine wasting that opportunity to just own this town, to never have to pay for a drink, no matter how well you do. Like that takes effort to sour that. I don't think, just strategically, I think our ship has sailed for getting any value out of him. If I recall, when there was still a chance for us to trade for someone on the Astros. It might have been Tucker, because before the Cubs got him. We were notified, through leaks of a package that was offered to the Astros that was quite good, with a lot more control than 1 year of Kyle Tucker. Bohm was a big part of that, and they just said flat out no. And that told me everything I needed to know about how the league valued him.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not gotten any better since. So, and the one piece that I can envision us, barring any injury, and all of this rides on, this team has to stay healthy. They have traditionally, you got to knock on wood on that. But the need that they will need, no matter what, will be a strong right-handed bat. That's kind of been the case for a couple seasons. And what we'd be trading is Alec Bohm, who is, another right-handed bat. I just don't see us getting a one-for-one upgrade. There's just no package for a guy that, is a free agent at the end of the year that I can see.
Bo Bichette might be available.
That's been fun this year to watch fans melt down. I mean, guys just saying he sucks outright. They won't even say why. It's I love a Mets meltdown. But yeah, I agree. That's probably all we can hope for with Bohm. If we get even 80% of that, I'll be thrilled, and I think it will be a contribution to this team. We shouldn't be relying on him.
I'm glad that you brought up the I hate this fucking place, because it's not logical, but I think as sports fans we all do this. I hope so. I'm about to say it out loud, and if you're like, I've never done that, what are you talking about? I'll feel really weird. But there's these moments where you almost write it like a screenplay in your head. You're like, well, this is where this is headed. And when that happened, I just kept having this recurring vision of Alec Bohm at the parade grabbing the mic and being like, I love this fucking place. Doing the ugly thing.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Of course.
Okay. Because I thought, it got to the point where I was like, well, this is going to happen. The only question is, will it be this year or next year? I was 1,000% sure it was going to happen. And then 4 years later, you're like, oh, it never happened, and now I kind of don't like this guy.
Yeah, and now this fucking place hates you. It's just, the poem is all wrong. That's not how baseball romance is supposed to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Who knows? Maybe that's what we get out of the 2026 season. Anyway, that is the daycare segment. I want to glow about our starting pitching. I hope we can do this every episode. This is pretty interesting to me. This is last night. I watched a replay of Buster Olney's podcast, and it was him and Tim Kirkajian just geeking out about baseball. There's really nothing better than listening to those two. But first of all, the National League is, I can't remember a time, I'm sure there are examples, but a year where the disparity between the AL and the NL was so stark. I mean, the NL is so good this year in every aspect of the game, but the pitching especially. So you do the usual, all right, season ends today, who are your Cy Young candidates? And they listed some big dogs. I mean, no brainers. Your Skeenses, your Otanis, your Mason Millers. There's
Sale,
a lot.
Chase
Well,
Burner.
I didn't even get to his name yet. Chris Sale wasn't even on the list. Bryce Elder, who is dominating for Atlanta as well, was not even on, I think, the top 5 or 6 that they could fit on the screen. Mizurowski was one of them on there. And a guy that wasn't even mentioned as oh shit, we didn't even get a chance to put this guy on the screen, was Zack Wheeler. Zack Wheeler has an ERA under 2. I mean, I would hope he's got comeback player of the year locked at the very least. But they're not even talking about him as, a top 10 Cy Young candidate. you know how I feel about Zack Wheeler. Guy is just the be-all and end-all of Phillies pitchers in my lifetime. But he looks so good. He's still got a tight leash, and he's still just dominating baseball games. I mean, they won't let him. He's touching 98, 99 again out of nowhere. I don't even think they want him to do that. They're giving him a quick hook when he's only in true Zack Wheeler form, looking stronger in the seventh than he did in the first through third. I mean, I'm so excited for him to wedge himself into that conversation, and I don't think it's going to take too long. Obviously, the odds are against him because there is so much talent and so much dominant pitching talent in the NL. But I really thought about him a lot when the past couple weeks with everything else going on. You know, the guy, we had no idea if his career was just flat out over after that surgery he had. I mean, that's major. It hasn't been done with a pitcher at that level coming back and being anything like he is, especially at his age. But it crushes me to think that Zack Wheeler has no hardware. He doesn't have a ring, doesn't have a Cy Young.
I know.
No rookie of the year. I don't, nothing. He's never sniffed like a triple crown. And that just bums me out, man. And I meant to do it before this episode. I will for the next one, to look at who in Cooperstown of starting pitchers has neither of those things. A ring or a Cy or some other just, impressive stat, 3,000 Ks, whatever. And I just gotta root for him. And if for no one else this season, especially with a potential labor stoppage next year, like, we gotta win it for that guy.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna bring it every game, and he would die on that mound for us. I just feel that way. There's no one I trust more with the baseball.
He's such a delight to watch. Truly one of my favorite Phillies of all time. He's not Cooperstown bound, because he was a decidedly average pitcher until he became a Philly and turned 30. He's having this second half of the career resurgence, and it doesn't seem like he has any desire to pitch into his 40s like Jamie Moyer or Rich Hill. It seems like he was saying, I'm pretty much done when my contract is up. I think he
did walk that back a tiny bit at the end of this spring, which is interesting. Good. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah,
I hope he sticks around and keeps pitching, and I hope he's a Philly the entire time. I love the guy. I think he has one Gold Glove. I think that's his entire trophy case is a single Gold Glove, and he's too good for that. He made a real case for Cy Young a couple times, and here's where you're going to start seeing his name in the Cy Young race. Right now, he's got 31 2/3 innings. Not enough to qualify. But the Phillies are running out a 5-man rotation, and although he's still on a leash, it's not a super tight leash. Once he gets to the inning qualification, which is 1 inning per team game played, his name is going to pop up right near the top of the National League ERA board, and then there's going to be people who are like, oh, shit, I didn't realize Zack Wheeler was even doing this. You look at Ohtani, on the other hand, who I just went to see last Wednesday, pitching against the Giants, 7 shutout innings, unbelievable. I mean, the guy, I could just talk all day about Ohtani, but he is in a 6-man rotation, a strict 6-man rotation. He's pitching once every 6 days. Well, you got to average 6 innings per start to get to the 162 innings. That's just basic math. So far this year, he has gone at least 6 in every single game. 2 games, I believe he has 7. So he's like barely over that. But he's going through a thing where every time he pitches, he moves to number 1 on the ERA chart. And then a couple days later, he drops off.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is Wheeler's going to catch him in innings based on the 5 versus 6-man rotation. And all of a sudden, you're going to have a really good barometer. Because right now, Ohtani's at about like an 0.80 ERA. He's not going to last at that. But Wheeler could come in, and all of a sudden, him and Ohtani are 1 and 2 in ERA, and then people are going to start talking about it. I'm blown away by what I've seen. I did not, and part of this is we don't know enough about thoracic outlet syndrome, and there are different degrees of it and everything like that. And, I didn't expect this. Certainly not this early in the season. As you said, I thought he'd be rounding into form around the All-Star break, and frankly, I thought his new form would be 80% of his old form.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
he looks great. He looks great. I've passed the point of hoping for the best, and now I'm kind of expecting it. I'm excited to every time he takes the mound, I feel like we're going to win that game. It feels like nothing has changed. It feels like the Zack Wheeler of the last 5 years, which is just, God, I love him. I love him so much.
Agreed. And that just like, I hate how it's easy to not talk too much about Chris Sanchez because he's been nothing but just an absolute ace for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
He, complete game shutout the other night against a decent Pirates team. Changeup is just lights out. I mean, I haven't seen many changeups better than what he has going when he's in top form. Also has the same kind of, I see him inheriting Wheeler's demeanor on the mound. They're obviously very different pitchers, lefty and righty. But I just see the fire in him, that low simmer in him, very similar to Wheeler. He'll let it out, at the end of an outing, with a big punch out or something. But overall, you can just feel it. He's got that glare. He's got that killer behind his eyes. And, it's just a sight to behold. And then we just think about, we've got two aces like that. And what do you really need in a playoff run but one more guy that can just get the job done in a playoff series? I mean, you go 7, you can get 4 starts. You can maybe even get 5 starts out of your 2 aces. It's been done before.
Yep.
And just to know that we have that capability. And if the lineup produces on top of that, why not the Phillies? I mean, I know we've said that in the past couple of runs, but to get Zack back and have those 2 guys really feeling like Cy Young guys already, and then knowing we've got Luzardo, who could return to the form that we expect him to, not even going to talk about Aaron Nola, and then Andrew Painter if you need him for a start in the playoffs, but ideally you don't even. We're set up to win. We're set up to win if everybody does what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, sure.
It's just so exciting to see.
But that's where we were last year, right?
Sure.
Nobody wants to make excuses, and it's easier to look at that NLDS and be like, well, we shouldn't have walked Ohtani or the bunt in game 2 and all of that. Some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. But the fact is, if we lost our best pitcher right before the playoffs.
Yeah.
Wheeler, Sanchez, Luzardo with Ranger as the 4 was the plan. It turned into Sanchez, Luzardo, Ranger, and Nola piggybacking. It's a massive difference against a really good team. And if you can keep this level of Zack Wheeler and this level of Cristopher Sanchez, you are in a really good position to beat any other team in baseball. Or at the very least compete at the highest possible level. Sanchez, you know who Sanchez is reminding me of more and more? A left-handed Ryan Madson. Madson never figured it out as a starter. Obviously, they had that run, but he was lights out as a reliever with, in my mind, a similar kind of thing where he had an A-plus changeup. He had a really good fastball, not an A-plus fastball, but a good fastball. And also, he's so tall, and so is Sanchez, that the fastball seems even faster. The point they are releasing the ball from is closer to home plate. It gets on you more quickly, which sets up the changeup even more. So, obviously, Madson never really stuck as a starter. Sanchez is an elite starter. But in terms of just, like, the arsenal, I see a lot of similarities there.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, at least one inning at a time. I think that's a great cognate. I mean, and Madson, he was hitting 98 in that 08 playoff run with that fastball, kind of out of nowhere. I don't want to ask how, but that was the kind of stuff that he had. And yeah, similar build for sure. Luzardo, I want to see another couple starts. We've been on this roller coaster before, even this season. I hope he hits his stride at the right time. You can say that about anybody. But I think neither one of us has given up on his ability to be a consistent, maybe the best third starter in the league for all I know. And then, I think I mentioned earlier that Painter looks like he's developing the way a rookie should. I don't want to have to depend on him for starts in the playoffs. But if he's our, emergency long man or whatever else in a playoff run, I'll take that any day over what we've had when it was Taijuan Walker. So, a lot to build on.
I would like to see them, and it's not priority number one at the trade deadline. Priority number one, I think, is probably going to be to get a bat because the pitching is more strength. But I would like to see them shore up that 4 spot, or at least give themselves another option, much in the same way that the Blue Jays gave themselves an option with Max Scherzer last year. Because the more kind of like lottery tickets, for lack of a better term, you buy for that 4 spot, the more of a chance you have somebody who hits their stride in September. I'm done counting on Aaron Nola. I refuse to do it anymore. Andrew Painter is going to blow past his career high in innings by July at this rate. So I don't want to count on him. And look, if you have those 3, the 4th starter, it's not of the utmost importance, but every game matters. And, I just don't want to go into a 5-game series and somehow fall into a 2-1 hole, and now the season is on the shoulders of Aaron Nola or Andrew Painter, unless they're hot. But get another option in there, somebody that can, compete for that 4th spot. But agreed on all fronts on Luzardo. At his peak, he is a rung below those guys, which is more than good enough for a 3rd starter. I would just like to see a little bit more consistency.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about how the starting pitching depth is a concern. I mean, one of these guys goes down, we're in some trouble. But I think we'll definitely hear about that. I'd be surprised if we don't. We're going to see how the first half of the season shakes out. I think in July there's going to be some guys out there with a pedigree worth taking a flyer on. Even more so than what was the guy's name that we picked up from the Red Sox last year. Won the series for the Dodgers the year before.
Starter or reliever?
Yeah, starter. Who did we pick up at the end of last season? We're gonna have to cut this part.
Maybe we could just leave
it. He pitched the final outs in the World Series for the Dodgers 2 years ago. He was a big time starter for a couple years.
Oh, Walker Buehler.
Thank you.
I don't know how I completely blanked on that. I forgot that he ever even played for the Phillies. That's crazy.
Me neither. But I hope there's an option like that or better, at least, that we take a flyer on. I actually thought we should have done more with Buehler last season. But
well, if you remember, Dombrowski, with a month left in the offseason, was like, we're going to add another starter. And then he didn't. Mm-hmm. Lucas Giolito just got signed like 3 weeks ago. He was
all that, yeah.
He was there. So I really hope that Dombrowski, and maybe he just believed in Taijuan Walker more than I did, but I was beating that drum the entire offseason. You got to add another starter, and they didn't. I hope he understands now that you have to. You can't go in banking on either of those 2 guys to win a big playoff game for you. It cannot happen.
Yeah, especially when you've seen the approach that the Dodgers have taken the past few years. I mean, they seem to have 9 starters, and yeah, whoever's healthy, that's who gets the playoff glory. But yeah, something like that. But we'll see how that fans out. Lot to look forward to still. We got rounding out this series with the Reds. We got the Guardians over Memorial Day weekend at home. Really running the Tito Francona circuit lately. Both Sox, Reds, and then they do make a little West Coast swing, which I believe that this heater will continue through this weekend. But you mentioned it, that West Coast trip, San Diego and LA. We're going to find out what they're really made of. Let's just hope they had momentum going into it. And I'm expecting a very exciting summer, and I can't be more happy with the transition that we made from Thompson to Mattingly, that we did it when we did. A lot to look forward to as a Phils fan. Can't ask for much more at this juncture, considering where we were.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And I hope they stay hot because the Dodgers tickets are too expensive for me to go and watch them. That's the thing. When I first moved out here and the Phillies were terrible for about 6 years, the Dodgers were coming off the Frank McCourt thing, and you could go to games for like $9. So it's like, yeah, I'll go for $9, and if Michael Franco gets a hold of one, I got my money's worth. Now it's like, if I'm gonna drop $72, like, you guys better. I'm not gonna. I don't want to watch the 9-19 version of this team for that price, but I'm excited to see the Mattingly version.
right on. And on that note, I would love it if Phillies fans got so excited about this team, as they should, that they at least start buying my season tickets for face value. If we get to that would be one thing.
You're still taking a loss on them?
I'm eating it hard, man.
Wow, that's surprising.
That's all right. But yeah, we'll get there. That I think that wraps up an hour. Pat, it's been a blast, man. Good to see you again, and we'll keep this thing going. Specific Jawns podcast. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow. Barker Ball Media is what we're listed under on YouTube, and we will be back next week with myself and Barker, and maybe a couple other supporting cast members. It's all about the margins.
Go Phils. See you guys next week.
Go Phils.